The Constitution left control of America's system of education to the states. And while the states hold final authority over American education, they have traditionally allowed local school districts to have considerable control over how their schools are run. Nowadays, however, I'm sorry to say that all of that is changing. Control of the school curriculum is slipping out of the hands of localities and even of states. Through the Common Core, huge national testing consortia, funded and controlled by the federal government, are removing our schools from the influence of the families and communities who actually use them. Now, I'm sure you've heard all about Common Core. We've heard about it today, of course. But the truth is, Common Core is only the beginning. What most people still don't understand is that the vast government-supported expansion of the high school advanced placement program has put the College Board in a position to impose a de facto national curriculum on our high schools, a curriculum that covers absolutely critical topics like American history, U.S. government and politics, European history, world history, literature, and a great deal more. And as the College Board puts its new curriculum in place, it's handing sharply left-leaning college professors, the ones who advise it, a way to take control of K-12 education in America. Now, I've already talked about the way in which our federalist system, our system of state and local control, cultivates the taste for freedom. But there's another reason why our federalist system is so critically important to this country. The founders understood that breaking up central control and allowing for choice and variety at the state and local levels was the surest way to guarantee that no single political faction could impose a tyranny on the rest of the country. Local control of our schools means that no one side in our political battles can force their ideas on the minds of their opponents' children. But now, that critical bulwark of our liberties is under attack. And let me explain how it happened. Until about a year ago, if you were teaching advanced placement U.S. history, all the College Board would have given you by way of instruction was a 4 or 5 page topical outline. As long as you taught about the Mexican War, the Jacksonian period, the Civil War, and so forth, you could teach those topics pretty much any way you wanted. You could teach American history from a liberal perspective, a conservative perspective, or anywhere in between. But just last year, the College Board decided to issue a long and very controlling curriculum framework that effectively forced everyone to teach AP U.S. history from a leftist perspective. The new curriculum was all about conflict by race, ethnicity, gender, and class. And of course, there was a lot about environmentalism as well. There was very little about America's distinctive national character, and a great deal instead about cultivating a sense of global citizenship. Political, diplomatic, religious, and military history were downplayed, and in many cases completely ignored, as were the fundamental principles of American government, principles like federalism and local control. The new curriculum made conservatives look irrational and mean, while liberals, of course, were made to look like heroes, and so on and so forth. Now, some of you may have heard that the College Board's new curriculum guidelines for its AP US history course stirred up a hornet's nest of opposition. And because of that, the College Board recently revised its controversial curriculum framework and claimed that all the problems had been solved. Well, the problems have not been solved. Far from it. Yet the College Board has removed some of the most biased phrases from its new American history curriculum, but the truth is the basic leftward bias is still there. And not only that, but the entire effort at revision was mostly just for show. All the AP US history textbooks, all the course syllabi, all the teacher training materials, and the exam itself have already been changed to conform to the original hyper-controversial left-leaning curriculum. And all of that has stayed exactly the same. So the problem of bias is still there. And meanwhile, the College Board has come out with a brand new curriculum for its AP European History course. And sure enough, it's a virtual twin of the original hyper-leftist American history curriculum. The overwhelming focus is on the evils of colonialism and capitalism, with very little about the problems of socialism, or about religion, or about the development of the principles of representative government. The whole European history curriculum is a leftist college professor's dream, which makes a lot of sense because those are the folks who drew it up. But here's what's really new about all this, and what most people still don't understand. The College Board has decided to drop its usual minimalist course guidelines and issue detailed curricula for every single one of its advanced placement courses. So last year's controversy over AP US history is only the beginning. What's really going on here is that the College Board is using its government-subsidized monopoly of the AP testing market to create an ideologically biased national curriculum. This is a dramatic development. It's exactly the sort of thing that our constitutional system was designed to prevent. And yet it's happening right now. And there is very little public understanding or debate about it. Through the use of government subsidies, the advanced placement program has now expanded to cover 1/3 of all American high school students. So if you control the curriculum of the advanced placement program, you now control the idea about the meaning of this country, of politics, of society, of culture, and of character held by the 1/3 of young Americans most likely to shape the world we're all going to be living in tomorrow. In effect, David Coleman, the controversial architect of the Common Core, who, not so coincidentally, is right now the president of the College Board, is now in a position to dictate to the country an ideologically charged national curriculum. By means of the College Board's advanced placement program and aided by federal subsidies, Coleman has managed to make an end run around the curriculum-setting authority of state and local governments. So the concern that a national school curriculum could ultimately be used as a tool of cultural control by a single political faction is no longer just a theory. It's happening before our eyes. The only way to stop it is to create an educational testing company that can compete with the College Board, a company advised by top-notch traditional scholars. Competition in the AP testing market would restore true choice and accountability to the curriculum. Competition in AP testing would put control of our educational system back where it belongs, in the hands of state and local governments and the parents and voters those governments represent. I hope and believe that a new advanced placement testing company, advised by top-notch traditional scholars, will emerge within the next year or two. And when it does, it is critically important that government at the state and federal levels take steps to open up the educational testing market to genuine choice and competition. Otherwise, yes. Otherwise, not only will America's tradition of local government have been cast aside, but even the understanding of what our federalist system was and why it was important will have been lost. So, between Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, the Environmental Protection Agency's assault on America's energy production, the collapse of America's position in the Middle East, the deficit, the burgeoning crime rate, and all the other fundamental transformations we're witnessing every day, it's easy to overlook America's system of local government and what our children are taught about our history and our constitutional system in our schools. But really, when you think about it, aren't these last two issues every bit as important as all the others? In fact, if I had to point to a reason for most of the problems this country is experiencing right now, I would point to the cultural influences that are pulling younger Americans away from American principles. Principles which are not so much being thoughtfully rejected as they are simply disappearing from ignorance and neglect. If the new generation never learns what makes our country work and what makes our country great, then America will have lost its way. And the process of education has to begin, not only in our schools, but in our public debates. The two changes I've spoken about today, the weakening of local control by the Obama administration's new housing regulation and the creation of a de facto national school curriculum, should both be discussed and debated far more widely. For example, if the presidential candidates, who aren't here anymore, started to take up these two issues, I believe those candidates would get a great deal of attention from potential voters. This is a moment in which Republican and conservative voters and candidates are disagreeing amongst themselves about the best way to restore the good that so many of us feel has been lost in this country. Some Republicans say that what's needed is not more negativism about the president's policies, but a positive program of reform that will help Republicans reach out to new constituencies. Other Republicans and conservatives say that it's time to name without fear and then take a hammer to all of the Obama administration's fundamental transformations, all of the changes that have put what's best in America at risk. I believe we can do both. I believe we can present a positive program of reform while also speaking the truth about the very troubling and dangerous transformations this country now faces. And I believe that the candidate who best does both of these things will unite the party and take the nomination. And that would be the very best chance we have to restore and defend all that we value in this country.
Croc TV.